time did you go? 8:30. Oh, shit. Golf. He's the number one.
Doc?
No, as far as playing. He's played more days.
All right, Doc, we're going to get started here. We've got Andrew. Go ahead, Andrew.
Hey, Doc, Zoo was just talking about how closing games has been a big deal for him and his development. And I know that usually that time this year has been Trez's time. But knowing that this matchup is tough for Trez and that, he's coming back from so much time off, I'm just curious, though, like how much has Zoo earned your trust to warrant that kind of time?
It's not really about trust. I've always trusted him. Overall during the season, Trez was more the finisher because, he only won Sixth Man of the Year award. But Zoo's been fantastic. And when you think about it, in the first two series, they've been made more for Zoo to finish games. And the fact that he can has been terrific. I mean, obviously he fouled out yesterday, but if he hadn't fouled out, he probably would have still been in.
Thanks, Andrew.
Get
Go
on
ahead.
out of here, man.
Go ahead, Om.
Hey, Doc. Your defense was dominant during stretches.
Easier and much more time.
Hey, Doc. Your defense was dominant during stretches, particularly in the fourth quarter, including Kawhi, who held the Nuggets to a 1-for-7 shooting in the fourth. What did you think about how they played? Is this kind of what you envisioned when you guys first got Kawhi and Paul?
Yeah, but I envisioned it for 4 quarters. We've just been sketchy defensively. I mean, we've at times played very well. When we do, we're really good. Like we've shown the ability to get needed stops. I think that's a great quality for your team. You have to have a stop if you can get one. And we've done that. But I just think as good as we've been in stretches, I think there's a better defensive team in there throughout the game. And that's what we have to do a better job of.
Doc, next question will come from Dan Wokey there with you in Orlando.
This is a beyond the ball. Is figuring out why teams have like that juice some nights and not others, is that an impossible question to crack?
Yeah, I've never. It's funny. One of our young coaches asked me recently before a game, "What do you think?" I said, "I've given up that a long time ago." For the most part, guards are there. Sometimes they just don't play well. Sometimes something happened at home. I mean, you never know what's going on in a guy's life, outside of basketball. Why? And that one thing can affect the whole team. You just don't know. I've learned that. Why are you playing spurts? It's a tough predictor. So I've given up on trying that. But being consistent is something you have to preach and push. And in execution. And if you can get that, then the effort will probably follow.
Are the variables here even higher?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I guess you would assume it would be because there's so many just things that can get you off kilter, that you can't control. But I don't know the answer.
Next question comes from Tomer. Go ahead.
Hey, Doc, good to see you. I'm just curious. You said you'd prefer to see the team play well for 48 minutes, especially defensively. But considering the playoffs, is the grind, the ugliness, just something you have to live with?
I didn't hear the end of that question.
I said, considering it's the playoffs, is the grind and the ugliness of the wins and the losses just something you have to deal with, considering it's the playoffs?
The grind of the playoffs is always going to be there. But you can be a better team. You have to strive to be that. I mean, we can all be better people every day, So you can't accept what happened yesterday and what you were yesterday. You want to be better each day. And your team, we forget that this team has not logged as many minutes together as most teams. It's any team, as far as just time together, practice time, floor time. And so we are in the middle of the playoffs and we're still growing. And we actually understand that. And so it requires more focus and more work from us because of that. There's teams that have been together. Denver, this is their third year together. They can come down and call any set they want, and every single guy knows it. They know the timing of it. They know why the reason they're running the play. We're still in the middle of the playoffs and figuring that out. That's tough, but it's the bet that we've made, and so we just got to deal with it.
Doc, next question comes from Tanya there with you in Orlando.
I've been doing some research lately about the lack of education in America about inequality and racism throughout its own history. And I'm wondering, as a parent, from your perspective, do you remember wondering about that or seeing that in your kids' schools and what they were doing?
Yeah, it's funny, and I like how you worded the lack of education, or the miseducation, maybe another term, or in some school books, the no education. We sang Dixie songs in college, in high school, in grade school, and we almost celebrated slavery like it was a cool thing. Think about it: black kids singing songs about picking cotton. I mean, how absurd that is when you think about it. And as a kid, I never thought anything of it. Thought it was a cool song, And then when you grow up, you're like, what the hell was that? We have not, this country, and I'm going to keep saying it, has not come to grips with the original sin of slavery and the impact of slavery. And I say it all the time. If you look at our country, and you just did it in a 275-year increments. Well, if you take the first 175 years, 150 years of that, it was slavery. The next 50 or 60 years was Jim Crow, segregation, and all hanging, lynching. So if you give anybody a 200-year head start economically, educationally, you're going to be in a deficit. And we have not come to grips with the impact of that. All we talk about is black crime. There's no such thing as black on black crime. If there's no such thing as white on white crime. But everything black is bad. And this country has to come to grips with that, whether they want to or not. The fact that we have a president right now that is trying to take education away about social injustice and racial injustice is absurd. And so, no, we have to just keep the talk. And I'm just going to keep saying this. It's not a black thing. It's a white thing. It's an American thing. It's human justice thing, right? Equal justice and human rights. And so, yeah, I'm going to stay on it. I'm not going to relent. And, really, this is voting and all that's important, but we got to teach the right stuff. You go to Germany and there's markers everywhere where Holocaust victims were. They've come to grips that they did. They paid reparations in Germany. They still are. And we've yet to come to grips. Forget the reparations. We've yet to come to grips with, we did something bad. Now do something about it. Because usually when you do something bad, there's a fine to pay. Pat Beverly yelled at an official. He had to pay $25,000. We killed millions of black people and we've done nothing. So to me, I'm going to keep talking about it, and I think we all should. And again, it's not a black thing. It's a human rights thing, and it's an American thing. Are we done?
Gotta wait for Chris.
Yeah.
Next question coming from Cameron, Doc.
Hey, thanks for pushing that message forward, Doc. I appreciate that. I want to ask you about Nikola Jokic. Can you give me a comparison of what you've seen from him? I mean, he has a wide array of tools. Can you give me a comparison of when you actually played, Doc, or what he reminds you of?
Man, I don't know. He's good. I don't know if there's a comparison. He has a little bit of everybody. He's all the footwork and the moves of Elijah the lanky and goofy, goofy intelligence of Kevin McHale. Shoot, man, he's just good. He's the best passing big, that I've seen, I think, ever. I know Walton was one of them. And he's very good, and he's very frustrating to watch on film.
Thanks, Doc.
Well, Doc, we're getting to the end, so I guess we'll let Sam Amick ask you a question there from Orlando.
Hello, Doc.
Hello.
I wonder, being with all these players, you've always had great relationships with guys around the league. You've been asked about this before earlier in the process, but as we get deeper, you've been seeing Paul, and I mean, how bizarre is that dynamic now that everything's
It's bizarre. I mean, it's bizarre that I'm doing an interview and Murray's messing around with me. Millsap and I are talking about golf,
right?
And then tomorrow we're going to hate each other. It is different. But if it's accepted, now, and we understand it. I think the strangest thing is at the games when we're getting off the bus. Both teams are getting off the bus together, going in the same elevator. That's absurd. That's crazy.
Right.
It may be dangerous too in some cases, but I think we've all accepted that it's not normal off the court. I think the craziest thing, but on the court is normal. On the court is basketball. But right when you walk off the court, everything is abnormal. And that's the way it is. That's the way everything is right now, probably.
Is there a quick follow-up for you? Is there another layer to it? Because the moment you guys shared that players meeting,
Yeah.
you had a lot to say.
Yeah.
And you already probably were the most popular coach around the league among players.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true, but yeah.
But is the connection deep a little bit through that?
Yeah, I think it's not just with me. I think with a lot of the coaches, because I think like Spo, Lloyd Pearson's not even in the bubble. Mike, Brad's been amazing. I mean, Brad had one of his players do a freaking PowerPoint in a meeting, in one of our meetings. I mean, shit, I couldn't do a PowerPoint. And so I just think the coaches, and not me, just the coaches in general, have really pushed their players to lead, which is usually the other way around sometimes. But what I'm proud of the coaches is that I think we all understood that this is a young people's thing. This protests are different. These are young people involved. And to push them to stay in front, I think has been awesome for me from afar, just to watch them do their stuff and keep speaking out. I'm just so very proud of our players.
Thank you, Doc. Have a great practice.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.